The Wealth Building Project Podcast.
Hey everybody, thanks again for chiming in, for tuning in. This is John Very, your host, The Wealth Building Project. We have episode 7 in order. Really excited today, and I really like what we've been doing all along. If you guys haven't tuned in, please check out episodes 1 to 6. It's a story we're telling. It's kind of like watching a mini series. If you step into it at the middle of it, you're going to miss a lot. You got to get in at the beginning, watch episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now episode 7. Best is in front of us right now that we've had to date. We have Tim Thompson, who is one of the most incredible individuals that I have met in my life. And he really shocked me. He's somebody that I didn't know as well. I worked with him, but didn't really know him as well as I know him now. And he is doing things that are changing the narrative on business, but in particular, sales type work. We at the Wealth Building Project have 3 pillars we focus on: sales wisdom, personal development, financial literacy. And Tim has now stepped in to take a role, if you will, on the sales wisdom narrative by almost flipping it upside down, redefining what it means. And he's here today. He's our guest, and he's going to share with you his story. But before we get started, when I connected with Tim, I actually connected with Tim on social media. And I just, it was by chance that I ran into what he was doing with this book that he wrote. We're going to get into it, Dancing with Deception. And when I asked him to send me a copy, what surprised me was he wrote this letter, which literally blew me away. And it goes like this: John, a sheer pleasure to have the opportunity to share this message with you. From your success and philanthropic work, I know that you will identify a lot with the text. Coming together would be a fantastic thing for those who could use our guidance. As I continue to digest your content, I myself am appreciative of your passion to help others. I myself was one of these people, so I empathize with your energy and goal for the mission altogether. When I was lost on my path trying to figure things out, people like you were secretly looking to relay this information in the book he's talking about. The timing of everything is not a coincidence. I'd liken it more to serendipity. Enjoy the book, and I'm looking forward to connecting in person when time permits. And then he says, and it's one of my quotes, if my why is strong enough, my how will always reveal itself. John Very, thanks for your support and years of guidance. Tim Thompson. And that really blew me away because I didn't know Tim as much in a working environment. I didn't know him as much when we were working together in a sales role. So Tim is the author. This is a best-selling book. It's like been number 5 on Amazon. It's, it's rolling big time. It's called Dancing with Deception, Reshaping the Global Perception of Selling. So, Tim, I guess I'm just going to lead off with this one question, and that is, what was it that drove you to write this book? What was it? When we talk about your why and your how per se, tell me if you could, please, for our audience, what was the impetus? What brought this all about? Appreciate you
That's a great
stepping
in. Yeah. Thank you for having me. Thank you, John. That was one of the most preeminent intros that I've ever heard in my life, and it happened to be about myself. So I appreciate that, man. And the same way I feel about you. So. Before I even share a little bit about that, the reason I wrote you that particular letter was because as I told you before, most people thought of you as almost like a phantom, as something that you were like Batman. You were something that we knew you existed, but we kind of didn't know. We were like, how did he get this done? Like, what is this guy doing?
Man.
What is he? So most that intrigued me. A lot of that intrigued me. I'm happy it was that way because I knew that there was just something about it. There was something that I felt about that. So, I've always sought you out. I've sought you out since 2000 and I guess we're gonna call that 2015.
Yeah, 2015, 16. Yeah, you're right. That's what it was.
Right. So almost a decade ago, I was secretly seeking you out, and it landed here today. You couldn't make this up. I didn't design it to be that way. It just happened that way. And you know what's funny? The book is kind of about that. The book is kind of about that pathway. It's about, that there's something out there that you want to do. That there's something that you feel. And the entire time, sometimes I kick myself. I probably should have just tried to reach out or try to get in contact with you then. But I had to go through a lot in order to appreciate what you may have went through in your career.
Yes.
Because you started your career long before I did. And but you laid the foundation. We knew that there was a bar that we were going after, and that bar was the standard. That bar, the standard was different than everyone else's standard. We all know that. So
thank you, my man. Thank you.
I'm great. Yeah, man. I'm greatly appreciative of it. And the reason why behind it, again, is a little bit, I think it'd be the same sentiment. I go through the book often to try to just like pick up things because I'll tell you a little story about how I wrote it, and I'll tell you why I wrote it. This book was written in 7 days. I wrote this book in 7 days.
Oh my God.
The way it was designed to be written in 7 days was a challenge from a friend of mine who kind of pulled out the highest out of myself as well too.
Yeah.
And I think that community has a lot to do with the way that you improve.
Yes.
Because they're there to keep you in check. They're there to kind of hold you accountable. They're there to push you beyond your measure. You're there to motivate them. You're there to inspire. And you've consistently done that throughout your career. People talk about you in that light. I haven't heard a bad thing about John Berry. And if I ever did, I'd have to question the person that ever did because I don't think they want to win. So that's my that's my sentiment and how I feel and think of it. Dude, I mean, but it's true, right? So it's like when I wrote that book, it's funny enough that it attracted you to it because that book is exactly who you are. That book is exactly you doing the right thing. You wanting to change lives. And then as I dove into what you have thus far with the Wealth Building Project, it made sense.
Man, I appreciate that.
And I said to myself, dude, you aim low, you're gonna hit low. You'll be stuck there forever. But if you aim high, you'll run into people like yourself. And I'm sure you've done the same thing. You've run into people who want that you wanted to be. And I'd love to know that, by the way, one of these days, who influenced you. But
yeah,
before we get there, this book was written in 7 days. The way that I wrote it, I woke up at 4 every day and I wrote for 2 hours. And I said, I'm going to put, I'll know when I'm finished with this chapter. So I basically broke this book down into how to get a 6-figure sales job. I think that's what the idea behind it was, honestly.
Yeah.
So this book is kind of about that. It kind of follows that philosophy. But I was like, hey, you know what? There's a lot that goes into this. I think I have to be really, really honest with them. Like, okay, so let's think about this, Tim. What would someone need in order to obtain a 6-figure sales job? Whether they are in sales, whether they're thinking about getting into sales. And as I was getting to that third point, there was like this gap of me just saying, would I have ever wanted to get into sales before if it was just about the money? And that's why I got in it, because it was about the money at first.
Yeah.
And then as I was in sales, I started realizing the way people got their money it was against my philosophy, my life's work. And that was challenged a lot. You know what I mean, right?
I do know. A lot. Can I tuck this in for 1 sec? Because you are just
sure, please.
This is like the most revealing thing. So, and what Tim is saying. So I've been in sales all my life. Pretty much. We're born salespeople, right? We got Tim Thompson Incorporated and John Berry Incorporated. But what happens and what Tim is really talking about is because when we get into sales, no matter what you're selling, the reality is that what you sell is really you. It's authentically you. It's everything about you. And unfortunately, we're always forced in some way, even if it's not selling something, to have some form of stretching the truth happen in our lives. No matter, and it just happens. And unfortunately, it's almost unavoidable no matter what. And I think what really drove me to this is, and I'll give you the theme, it's about when we get into sales, it's almost like we're forced into a role because we've got to make money. We've got a quota, for example, if we're in direct sales, or even if we're marketing, it's all about views and likes and who's buying our stuff. And he does talk about branding, marketing, and sales being combined omnipotent. Like the greatest thing, you can't have one or the other. To be great, you have to have branding, marketing, and sales. But you have to understand, what Tim's brand is what we're talking about on this podcast. It is ultimately you, right? It is you. Your essence is what you put the label on, right? We call this program the Wealth Building Project. It has to be more about giving than ever about receiving. Because if it's not about that, then it's going to be about something else. It's got to be, okay, is there a monetary value? Can I take something from this? Can I make more money because of it? It's almost, we talk about it in episode 6 about the compound value system. You have to try to connect with your compound value system as much as possible. And this book is going to allow you to connect with your compound value system, because in sales, you are in customer service first and foremost, right? You've got to figure out how to move the mountain before you move the market. And moving the mountain means doing whatever it takes to get that person's attention. And what Tim did was he basically wrote my epitaph. He wrote my epitaph on this. This is what's going on my epitaph, right? And honestly, that was very touching to me, because it's so important when you put a personal touch on something. You have to put so much energy into something. You got to wind yourself up every day, because no matter what, everybody says, oh, the customer's got to be right all the time. Yeah, the customer's got to be right. I agree with that to an extent, as long as you don't lose your sense of value, right? If you are challenged, if your ethics are being challenged, or you feel like you can't be yourself, or it challenges your integrity, then you're doing the wrong thing. You're doing the wrong thing. Because like I said, you're incorporated when you're born. We're born incorporated in business. You could be working for somebody else, or you're working for yourself. Right? You're working for yourself, you work for somebody else. You're still in business. And that brand that you're building, first and foremost, is you. Is you, because if they don't like the real brand, if somebody doesn't like this book, which is impossible, because this talks about the truth. It talks about the truth. It talks about integrity, and it talks about how integrity is missing. If you interview anybody who's in sales, they're either miserable selling it, whatever they're selling. Right. You know it. We all know it. And it's because they can't get behind their compound value system. If what you're selling becomes you, then the money part takes care of itself. Because in the Wealth Building Project, we talk about deficit and equity. And unfortunately, physiologically and psychologically, we let certain things bring us down. And unfortunately, when you are not connected with the things that are part of your essence to drive you and move your market forward and be able to influence people, not because you're looking for the likes and the views and everybody to share your stuff. It's simply because it's part of your essence. That's when the word spreads and everybody says, wow, this person's a really good person. So the book, the message I got from this book, there were 3 themes, and you're going to get them, and you'll read them probably twice, but branding, marketing, and sales, if you dare to be great. The SWOT method, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. So what could get in your way, for example? But I don't want to ruin the book, because the book was amazing, and I'm going to go read it again, and I'm going to highlight it. But Tim, if you could, and I'm sorry for tucking that in, but just maybe
man, I love it. I'm glad you did. I think that goes to show that what we said was actually true. Everything that you said before there was nothing. We didn't talk about this book before you said, but why do we have the same Why do we have the same philosophy?
Yeah.
Because there's a winning method to it.
Yeah.
That other people are missing. So there's no reason. No, don't be sorry at all. Don't be sorry at all. It's never your fault with that one.
Yeah.
You can't. It's right on par.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just sorry. Like I'm starstruck, bro, because like you were saying that I was your mentor, but honestly, I look at you as my mentor. Like I look at you as the mentor. Like it's for me. Like, to be honest with you, it really did resonate. Like when I was reading it, I'm like, man, oh man, like this book, it's very simply written. It's so to the point, and it just hits home, right? It just hits home. Like,
right.
And it doesn't matter. You could be in sales or not in sales. We're either buying or we're selling, and this message about stretching the truth and maybe saying something that just isn't on, like, to me, it's like, if I don't get the sale, that's okay.
Right.
I'm not going to let myself lie to that guy. I'm just not going to let it happen. I'm not going to lie to anybody. I have to be 100% truthful. I have to be, because my brand depends on it. Even if it doesn't work out, if there isn't a sale that's made, if I can't, if it's about getting ahead or it's only about getting ahead, I feel like that, unfortunately, is the message when we're bringing in salespeople to say, you got to get ahead. You got to get your, like if you're in direct sales, you got to get your quota. If no matter what organization you're in. And then it forces you to challenge, because you challenge your own value system maybe, and even your ethics. And sometimes moving the organization too fast forward, it causes the organization overall to overheat. Right?
That I 100% agree with that, because I've actually been a part of organizations who've done that. They've grown way too fast.
Yeah.
And business implodes.
Yeah.
They brought on all the wrong customers. They just, because if the product is something that you and I can agree on, if it's for everybody, then it's probably for nobody. Or if it's for everyone, it's probably for no one.
That's right.
There's some type of exclusivity to, or some type of, I would say, requirement to be able to even get the product. And I feel, and what I've noticed about some of the best people is that they're either helping people get to that point to be able to afford and use this the correct way as a consumer, or they're finding the right people for what it is to help them do things better.
That's right.
And I think people, they just throw it into anyone to just get a buy. And I don't really consider that sales, because I think that's easy to do.
That's right.
I think it's a very low skill versus like what you've been able to do. You've been able to work through deals for long periods of time. They may have actually needed some coaching on fixing their business in order to integrate something.
That's right.
And that's the difference I think, between like a sales professional and just a person you throw into a position.
That's right.
And that's really kind of what I wanted to get at with the book, is like, hey, sales can indirectly be a part of what could change the world altogether.
That's right.
And a problem I saw with the world is that we just had a low standard. We just had a low standard. No one, when it comes to competition, people are a little bit upset at others because some people are winning, and making others feel bad for winning. I think that's just a great part of life. Yeah. There's something that you can look forward to. There's something in there that you can look forward to.
Yeah, no, what I was going to say is winning, you're right, but also unfortunately getting caught up in comparing themselves to other people because they think there's a certain level they got to achieve because some person's got better marketing than yours, and now you're in this almost this rat race of your own sort. But why it's so important is because what I like to do with our wealth building project program here is it's like my own little investment in me speaking to my younger self to say, how would I do things differently today if I were to do it all over again? This book, folks, is like a Bible for that. It's a Bible. Dancing with Deception is what's going to happen every single day you walk out your door. And unfortunately, even if you're in the same household, under the same roof, you could be dancing with deception. Some of us are.
Right.
I don't know if you can trust everybody in your household.
You know what's funny about that? I actually have a question for you, out of curiosity, right?
Sure.
I guess this is two questions I want to know. For you, answer it however you feel. Maybe one is not necessarily what we'll answer now, but
I'm nervous.
One is like if you had no.
I'm joking, man.
Wouldn't do that to you. No worries.
Freddie, don't laugh.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What is, if you had everything, if you had this John Berry, if this John Berry was able to speak to the John Berry of 18 years old, 19 years old, 20, let's say 22.
Yes.
Let's say I'll let you pick an age, a pivotal age where you're like, man, John Berry at this age could have used the John Berry of today, and this is how he would benefit from it. How much do you think you'd be further? What do you think the difference would be from where you are today versus that part? And you are at a successful stage today, but I'm curious to know how much more could you have amplified it from that age? Just curious.
You know, that's a great question. I'll tell you, for me, when I was younger, I would say it all depends. But for me, I was lucky. I was fortunate enough to go to higher education. I was fortunate to go to school, go to college, right? A lot of people don't have that opportunity. If I was speaking to somebody that was younger who might not have had the fortune of going to college or might not have had the fortune of even finishing high school, for example, what I would want to encourage them to think about is to be able to connect with the themes, I think, that are part of their essence. And it's almost as though it's maybe like picking up a gratitude journal maybe at a younger age and, you know, picking up a gratitude journal, but also having a mentor like a Tim Thompson here, for example, that's on the program, but tuning into our program as well, of course, I think might be one way. But I would say it's a good question because there really is no age limit, because when we look back at 18, 19, 20, we also have the older group of people who are tuned in also paying attention as well. It's not just the younger people pay attention, because we have to reinvent ourselves almost every day. We're always reinventing ourselves, and there's never a late time to restart. There's never a time in your life where the next day when you wake up might be your opportunity to institute change in your life. So for me, I think the answer is a very relative answer, but I would say if I want my younger self to always be honorable under any circumstances whatsoever, to be counted on. I don't want anyone ever to regret choosing me as their teammate. You know, I don't want to let anybody down. I want my team to know that I'm 100% behind them, but also to know that I've got a lot of deficits and challenges, right? That for me, and this is really what speaks the loudest, is for all my deficits and challenges, I have to surround myself with the team that can complement what I don't do well, and to recognize that sooner than later. But for me, like I said, I was lucky. I got involved in sales, and I was actually making less money than I was making in landscaping. And I told my mother, my mother said to me, you sat down with me and told me, you know, I said to her, Mom, I don't need to have a college degree to sell long-distance telephone services. Which is what I was doing when I got out of college. I didn't need a degree to do that. And so if I'm speaking to my younger self, we're talking about understanding your strengths, understanding your weaknesses, like you talk about, opportunities, threats. Just like you say in the book. And then I guess lastly, it just comes down to, you know, your conviction. We talk about this word. What's the word? The word is, Freddie, don't help me, man. The word is passion. We talk about passion, but it's actually not passion. It's mastery, right? The word is mastery. So if you really want something, you've got to try to stick to it. There's got to be stick-to-itiveness. There's got to be a willing to, Angela Duckworth's book, Grit, that comes up. How can you show that grit? How can you show that stamina, the willingness to not give up, because it's something that especially if it means something to you. And then the last thing I would say is, if I was to speak to my younger self, I would say that if I was looking for financial wealth, that's one thing. You can't build wealth financially without equity. I would also say, be careful of how much time you spend doing your work thing and spending all your time on yourself and only paying attention to yourself. Because like my mother said, if you only pay attention to yourself and you come and you got tunnel vision when you're eating the salad at the supper table, if you're married and you have a spouse, a husband, a wife, whatever it might be, they will leave you. They might not leave you physically, but they're going to leave you mentally.
Yeah.
Right? So don't abandon the people that are important to you, that support you. Right? That's one piece of wisdom, I would say. Because we'll talk about it in one podcast. I can talk about how you can avoid disaster when it comes to divorce, and hopefully nobody has to. I believe that you don't ever have to divorce anybody. Divorce is just a title, right? Just like separation and single and all that. It's a form, I don't want to go off on that, but I guess the point is that was a very good question that you asked, and I went off on a tangent on it, but it's a really
I think it was great.
It's a relative answer, my man.
Key point.
It's a relative answer.
Real. What it is, it is what it is. It's great. I took some notes there too, and I think like I said, when I was writing this, it was looking for someone, because all young men, I think, are looking, who don't have the masculine figure, are going to be looking for a figure that they can follow.
Yes.
I don't think that anyone can lead without learning how to follow.
Yes.
Because that's where you're going to be leading.
That's right.
At one time, you're going to be leading someone who like you.
Yes.
Your position will come up one day. Mm-hmm. And what it seems like is like a lot of people are really rushing to get to this stage. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do know.
Rushing to get to this stage.
I do know.
Yeah, rushing to just get to the stage of success.
I do
when
know.
Success was like through the process. It was
right.
It was just through it.
That's right.
And I think when you say comparison, it's like that. You compare to someone else who has success.
That's right.
And you don't even really know where they are on the bar. You're comparing about you starting day one, and this may be their 10,000th day. Like they've been here a long time.
That's right.
They've been here a really, really long time.
Yes.
And that's the thing. That's what I thought was what was really interesting about what you put together.
And the other thing I would say, just to add to what you said, is that if I were to speak to my younger self too as well, I've said this. I heard it on a podcast. I think it was maybe I don't know who it was, but I heard it and I listened to it and it was fabulous. It's like you can't think in days. You got to think in decades, of course, and it might take a decade to make something happen. If you have a time horizon that is longer, of course, that's the way you've got to think about in life, is that there is no rush. You don't need to rush anything, especially where you're continuing to add value all the time. It's adding value for the people that you serve every day. And if it takes a decade to do it, great. You might change the world in 2 decades then, for that matter. And then what I like to think about when we talk about it is 3 words: renaissance, generational, and love. Right? Those are the themes of almost anything that I like to do. I'm in the real estate business too as well, and I think of how I can connect to the communities I'm in, because we make a big difference. We're beautifying buildings when we buy them. And that to me is something I can connect to, because it makes a big difference in the people's lives that we're serving. And when you can think about generational too as well, it's not about, daddy's going to hand me the keys to the Ferraris because he collected them. It's about handing the keys of wisdom, about goodwill, about love. And that's the third theme. Love is what trumps everything. And when we have love in our heart, it's like we do things unconditionally. And too many times we think with conditions. We're trying to get the business deal because we need the money. But try to look the person in the eye, like we're looking each other in the eye and saying, I really care about you because this is important to me, not now, but for many years. Because I value our partnership. And I don't want to let you down. I don't want to let you down. Right? That's the thing. That's what it can't be just about influencing because you need the followers and you need the likes and you need the clicks and the search engine optimization and algorithms and blah, 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 blah. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Freddie's looking like me. I got 5 eyes. Cool. Okay. So,
But that makes sense, and it goes into a little bit of what I tried to explain here.
Yes.
Inside of one of these, I forget what chapter it may have been in, but it was in, hey, this is a lifelong partnership. There's something here. You impacted me enough to know that I want to be involved with you in some capacity down the line.
Yeah.
I plan on being great. I have things that I'm looking to work on.
Yeah.
I know that you want people in that sphere.
Yes.
And that goes for anyone that we talk to, that we want to do business with.
Yes.
Is we want people who are along that, who fit that description. And those people are usually willing to help you, willing to give you whatever it is that you need in order to be successful, because in turn, they're going to be successful. They're going to be a part of that ecosystem now. It's that sphere.
Yes.
So that's what I think is, that's what I believe is probably something that's missing when it comes to sales. And I think that they want to do it fast, and I don't think that comes fast.
That's right.
Speed
Nothing
is like something that's not involved, right? So could you talk a little bit to that
let me do it. Let me crush that one. I think I got that one, my man.
Yeah, please.
Please
do.
But again, we're talking about the same thing. We're talking the exact same thing. Speed is unfortunately, it's like the vernacular of business, because we're all trained to think about speed. Speed is a speed to the market, speed to the speed. Okay, well, guess what? You're going to burn out, my man. It's got to be about. It's got to be about the like I said, if it's about speed, that's fine. But it can't be something that's sped up because you feel like you got to speed it up. It's only because the person you're with might want to speed it, meaning you're representing a person. They want you to speed up. Okay, you speed it up. I'm going to work as fast as I can. I'm going to mirror bond and rapport. I'm going to mirror what my client wants, as long as it doesn't compromise my value system. As long as it doesn't challenge my integrity, I will do what that customer asks me to do. Because that is what was important. That's part of the partnership. That's what's part of taking the business to the level I want to take the business relationship to. Right. So I do believe in that part. But again, if it's about doing the speed, but you can't deliver it, well, guess what? Then you're going to get in trouble. Because now you've promised something. Yeah. You've overpromised. You got to underpromise and overdeliver, as they say. Right? And so I think that's the challenge, and that's unfortunately, where your book plays a huge role, and the theme of that book about making the investment in the long term, not being rushed, right? Not being rushed. But when you speak to that client, you speak with conviction, because sales is about conviction. If you don't believe in what you're doing, what you're selling, then you are making a bad move. Starting right now. And until you get out of it, you're going to continue to make bad moves, and you're going to be at somebody else's mercy, and you're going to be in a situation where you might be working, even if you work on your own, there's somebody else that's going to be pulling the strings because you're making bad decisions. And it's because it's not based on your value system. It's based instead on somebody else's value system or their quota system. And even if you have a quota, okay, you're going to still work as best you can, representing the organization as best you can, so that you can make your boss proud and tell that boss you want them to be proud of you, because you're going to show them they're going to have a reason to be proud of you. You follow me?
Right.
That's what it's about. And so the same is true with what you're talking about, the partnership. You want that customer to be proud of you. You want that customer to be proud of you. That's the way you got to think internally. And if you don't think that genuinely and authentically, it's because something else is pushing you. And it's going to push you off the ledge.
Boom. There we go.
Right?
Right. Boom. 100%.
That's what I got, my man, from your book. And I'm telling you, that's why. So Tim is now an official advisor of the Wealth Building Project. So I want him to do a cameo with our students. We have 7 students that we've brought into a virtual classroom where we're literally recreating a business from another business. And some of the themes that we talk about, and particularly the sales wisdom that Tim represents, the guru that he is, the sensei as I call him, is invaluable. Just being able to have him come in and speak about what he did and with this book and his journey through life is an amazing thing. So, Tim, I'm going to leave it to you to let our audience know, and maybe you can answer it, maybe you can't, how they can get a hold of you.
Sure.
How can they get a hold of you? And maybe we could put a link into the comments or into this. David or Freddie, you guys got the thing. Put the link in there if we could to Tim's book, to buy that book, because I'm telling you, buy it. All right, buy it.
Yeah, man, I really appreciate that. I really, really appreciate that. And you know what's crazy, funny enough about it, John, it's I was less concerned about being a millionaire off of a book. It wasn't about that. Like, if I wanted to sell it to everyone, I probably could have done a lot more. Just been in the streets of Miami here in Brickell, and just kind of like it was walked in the middle of the street. But I felt it was a little bit more important to be able to kind of lay it out there, see what it attracted, and then kind of deepen the message after.
That's right.
So they can reach me. Facebook, Tim Thompson. You can find me there, Tim Thompson. Simple. I'll give you my link.
Let's put a link in. We'll get his link. We'll put it in the comments. Yeah.
Instagram, you'll be able to find me there. I'll put it's at the Timo Mignon. It's at TheTimomillan. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me Timothy M. Thompson on LinkedIn. So you can. I don't use LinkedIn as much as I need to. As much I'm there. I post as much as I can there.
Of course.
But that should probably be a huge focus going forward. But they can reach me anywhere, man. I think for them to get deeper into the message, reading and consuming and just kind of underlining and maybe even challenging some of the things that they see because of how they were taught, would be a pathway to get into contact as well too.
Yes.
So I think that would be great.
So maybe if we could, for the folks who are tuned in, if you could tell us in the comments section what challenges you. I mean, if you are selling something or you're buying something, what challenges you today that may challenge your ethics? What do you think is the thing that gets in the way of you being the way you want to be, and how you can live your life and be in a way that it's not stressful, that you're not under this duress, that that you got to perform, you got to compete with this, or you got to be this person or better than him or her or whoever it is. What are some of the challenges that you have that you're faced with? Tell us in the comments section, if you could, and let us know what's on your mind. And this has been great. We're gonna wrap this up because Tim's a busy individual, and I hope to have Tim participate with us in other endeavors, of course, within the Wealth Building Project, certainly with our student programs. And I just want you guys all to know, the covenants, the 3 covenants, the Wealth Building Project, no order of importance: personal development, sales wisdom, financial literacy. We're changing a narrative. We're bringing in ambassadors and gurus, masters like Timothy Thompson, who are emblematic of an amazing, what is really kind of the movement, if you will. He's somebody who I look up to. Maybe we didn't know each other so well when we were working together. I didn't know he had that much inspiration for me. But I am telling you, I'm totally enamored by this guy. You guys got to check him out. Please do. And if you could, check out our next episode. We got more in store for everybody. You can get the Wealth Building Project anywhere you get your podcasts. And appreciate everybody tuning out. Be great.